to your seats. All right, before we begin our second half, just a couple of things. If you think that you might have people who would be interested in hearing some of this great music this weekend, we still have 2 more performances of it. Tomorrow night we'll be down at Windsor, Vermont in the Old South Church at 7:30, and then Sunday at 2 o'clock at the First Congregational Church in Lebanon, the big white church on the green. Those are both open to the public. That one's at 2 o'clock. And then coming up on our next series, what is it? May now? Oh yeah, in June, in the middle of June, June 14th, 15th, that weekend, we'll be coming up with a violinist from Boston who I have not played with yet, but Joshua Peckins is his name. Seems like a wonderful guy, and he has a program called Rhapsodie Française. So we're going to do all French music. We'll do some Debussy, a really wonderful piece by Camille Saint-Saëns. There is also a woman composer on that. I can't believe I'm blanking on who it is now. Shoot, that's terrible. That should be a great program, and we'll be here. We'll be, where else will we be? A lot of places. Look up CLASSICOPIA.org. If you're not on our email list, please put that up there so we can let you know. And then in July 13th, that weekend, Alicia Ward and Andrea Picard-Becker, who were here last year from Baltimore, will come back, and we're doing a wonderful program of Czech composers, Dvorak and Smetana. It's called Czech Please. So that will be a really exciting program, and we'll be here that weekend. We'll be at the Bisno's home. They're in Hanover, beautiful home there. And if you ever want to do a house concert, just let me know. We'll do it at your house too. There's I think. Oh, and there's also probably at the end of June another cellist, Jacques-Pierre Milan, who is from Baltimore, who was supposed to be up here doing a concert in April. Unfortunately, his father passed away, but we are going to be able to come back, I think, at the end of June to redo that. That's called the Folk Cello, music by Grieg and Piazzolla and Tsintsadze, a Georgian composer. Lots of really fantastic music coming up, so do check CLASSICOPIA.org for all of that information. So we're going to begin our second half, and I apologize, the program that I used, we did this concert in Baltimore, and Laura Compton, our wonderful singer, was not at those programs. Her bio is not on the back, but she is really one of the best singers in the Upper Valley. Beautiful, beautiful voice. Studied with Marilyn Horne at the University of Oklahoma, where she got her master's. She is the music director at the Old South Church and has been so warm and friendly in bringing our series along. And it's always great to get her to perform with us. And so she's the one who suggested, I told her we were doing this concert. She's like, oh, there's some pieces by Amy Beach for voice, violin, and cello. Like, well, that's it. We got to do that. So we're going to do this piece now. And Amy Beach is a name you might know. She's a little bit better known than these other composers. And she is from New Hampshire, from Henniker, New Hampshire. Born in 1867. Apparently, she was an incredible youngster. At the age of 1, she was already singing songs that her mother taught her, and when she was 2, she was singing harmony to the songs back to her mother. By the time she was 3, she was playing piano, and when she was 4, she had written her first piece of music. So this is an astounding young talent, but she was growing up in this tiny little town of Henniker, New Hampshire. They had their friend Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a friend of theirs. He came and visited the home when she was 7 or 8, heard her play music, and he's the one who said, you got to go to Boston and get out of New Hampshire. So they moved down to Boston, where she was able to get some more training. Again, she was not able to get any composition lessons as a woman. She was able to get some piano lessons, but she was all self-taught. She learned how to compose by reading scores of Beethoven and Brahms and others, and sort of had the ideas come to her that way. She was a phenomenal pianist by all accounts. She soloed with the Boston Symphony when she was only 17 years old, playing the Mendelssohn Piano Concerto, and apparently the conductor took a rather slow tempo, thinking that she wouldn't keep up, and apparently she started to play faster. She said, I really didn't know that he was trying to spare me, but I did know that the tempo was dragging, so I had to swing the orchestra into the correct time. So this is a tough woman. But again, when she was 18 years old, she ended up marrying a much older man. Her name was originally Amy Cheney. She married a doctor, Dr. Henry Harris Aubrey Beach, who was a very well-known surgeon at the Mass General Hospital in Boston. And when she married him, she became Mrs. H.H.A. Beach. And so when she published music, it was always as Mrs. H.H.A. Beach. And he was he was okay with her composing. He was not okay with her performing as a pianist because he thought it was sort of beneath. They were very rich. They lived on Commonwealth Avenue because he was a wealthy doctor, and he just thought it was improper for a woman of her stature to make money off of concerts. So he let her play one concert per year as a kind of benefit program, would not let her teach any music because that was not something a perfect woman like her would do. But he did say, well, go ahead and compose. I'm sure that will lead to nothing. And she started really focusing on her composition. And in fact, in 1892, her Mass in E-flat major was the first Mass by a woman ever done by the Handel and Haydn Society in Boston. And she followed that up in 1896 with the Gaelic Symphony, which you can hear on YouTube. It's a wonderful piece of music. That was the first symphony composed and published by an American woman ever performed by a major symphony orchestra. And it is a great, great piece of music. And in fact, George Chadwick, who was the head of the New England Conservatory, who would not let her take composition lessons, heard this piece and wrote her a letter and actually said, I always feel a thrill of pride whenever I hear a fine work written by any of us. And as such, I think you have to be counted, whether you like it or not, as one of the boys. I don't think she wanted to be one of the boys, but she joined this sort of group of Chadwick and Arthur Foote and John Knowles Paine. They were known as the Second New England School. They were not very good composers, to be honest. They wrote sort of derivative European music. She was out there really trying to do new things. She used a lot of Native American melodies, some different Eskimo melodies in her music, and wrote a lot of really great stuff. She also was very influential as a woman composer. She started the first society. She was the first president of the Society of American Women Composers, and also created these things called beach clubs for women to be able to play music for each other. She wrote an opera, she wrote several symphonies, and I think in in the year 2000, the Boston Pops there in Boston put her up on the Hatch shell, the first woman after 86 men to be put up on that shell where all the composers are listed. So she's been recognized. And we're going to do these songs. There are 3 songs. The first one is from 1904, I think. It's an earlier song, and that's just for violin. And then the other ones are from much later, 1925, and some really interesting harmonies that she tries. That's for violin and cello as well. So here are 3 songs by Amy Beach. Welcome Laura Compton, Francis Borowsky, and Emmanuel Borowsky. Thank you, Laura. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. All right, so now we're going to let Francis take a break, and we're going to let Emmanuel play this very lovely romance by another composer who really is very little known. Her name is Luisa Adolpha Beau. She was born in 1850 in Rastatt, Germany. Her father was a military officer who had also been a pretty good amateur pianist. And when he retired, she was the only child, he really devoted his life to teaching her about music. And so she got a lot of great musical training, not only on the piano, but he taught her about composition as well. And she was devoted to her parents. She ended up composing her first piece when she was 7 years old, and took some lessons with Clara Schumann in 1873, a well-known pianist and the wife of Robert Schumann. She ultimately would move to Munich to study there at the Royal Music School with a famous composer named Josef Rheinberger. She was able to take composition lessons with him, but not with any male students in the room. She had to do it by herself with him, so at least she got some lessons, which is rare. She worked as a music critic for a while at the Allgemeinische Musiker Zeitung, that very famous journal, but she ended up quitting because the editor kept changing everything she wrote, and she got tired of that, and so she decided instead that she would establish a kind of her own music school. It was what she described as a private music course for daughters of the educated classes. So this was a way for her to teach other women about composition, about piano. She was friends with Liszt and friends with Brahms, so she was really in the heart of everything. She, at some point, was nominated to be positioned with the Royal School of Music in Berlin. But unfortunately, she couldn't get it because that position had never been given to a woman, and they were not going to start at that point. So she really struggled again to get her name out there, although she did win a very big competition in 1883, I think it was. She submitted this cello sonata, which is a really fabulous long piece of music, and it was the winner out of like 30 other pieces all written by men. And in fact, some of the judges did not believe it was written by a woman. They thought it was a man masquerading as a woman because it was such a powerful piece of music. But it did win, and it's a great piece. And again, you can hear that on YouTube. She ultimately sort of stopped composing again because she met a singer. It's always bad. It ended up going to Italy. His name was Giorgio something. I can't remember what his name is. Giorgio. So she lived in Italy at the end of her life, but she did end up writing a book, which I have not yet found, called Memoirs of a Female Composer, which might have some interesting things about her struggles to get her music out there. But this is a piece that was written about 1887. It's a very light little piece, a salon kind of piece, but still so much good stuff in it. Really well crafted, a romance by Luisa Beau. to the end. Another fantastic work now that really has not been performed often enough. This is a composer, you might recognize this name, Cécile Chaminade, a little bit more famous than the others. In the early part of the 20th century, she had a piece called The Scarf Dance that was performed all the time. But she wrote over 400 pieces, and we really have not heard most of those. And she published quite a lot of them. She was actually a very good businesswoman and was able to get most of her music out there. But she again grew up in difficult circumstances. Born in 1857, her father did not think that as a good bourgeois girl she should be doing anything with music. He was the director of an insurance company. He once told his friend, "Bourgeois girls are predestined to become wives and mothers." So she did not want to do that, wanted to play music, and they had a family friend named Georges Bizet. It's great, all these family friends. Bizet was the composer of Carmen. Bizet used to come over and listen to Chaminade play in her house. He called her my little Mozart, and again, she was a phenomenal young pianist. At some point when the father was away on a business trip, they actually performed a concert at the Salle Pleyel when she was 14 years old that again astounded everybody in Paris. She did not end up going to the conservatory. She was mostly self-taught again as a composer. And she once said the following about women. She said, "Women have not been considered a working force in the world, and the work that their sex and conditions impose upon them has not been so adjusted as to give them a little fuller scope for the development of their better self. They have been handicapped, and only a few, through force of circumstances or inherent strength, have been able to get the better of that handicap." She was a very popular performer in her time. In fact, Queen Victoria thought Chaminade was the best pianist ever. She would invite her all the time, and she actually came to the United States several times, including a concert at Carnegie Hall, which at the time in the early 1900s raised a near record $5,000. Her concerts were sellouts. And again, a lot of young women would come and see her perform. And like Beach, who started the Beach Club, they were Chaminade clubs that sprouted up. In fact, 200 clubs throughout the United States, starting, I think, in Philadelphia and then growing from there. And interestingly, the Chaminade, each letter of her name spelled out a different part of their motto. C was for concentrated, concerted effort. H for harmony of spirit and work. A for artistic ideals. M for musical merit maintained. I for inspiration, N for notes, every kind except the promissory ones, A for ardor and aspiration, D for devotion to duty, and E for earnest endeavor. And these were very popular clubs. They also were in Europe at the time. She actually became the first female composer inducted into the French Legion of Honor in 1913, and was also one of the first composers to record music. She was recorded for the gramophone in 1901 with the Gramophone and Typewriter Company, and I think some of those recordings still exist that connoisseurs have, so you can hear Chaminade playing herself. She said one final quote in 1910, she said, "There is no sex in art. Genius is an independent quality. The woman of the future, with her broader outlook, her greater opportunities, will go far, I believe, in creative work of every description." So we're going to give you this piece. Now, amazingly, this was written in 1880 when she was 22 years old, having really had no training as a composer, as far as I can tell. And she wrote this really remarkable piano trio. You'll hear this sort of bubbling first movement in G minor, wonderful dialogues with the instruments, a most gorgeous second movement, starting with this great cello solo, a third movement, which, like Emperor Joseph said to Mozart, there's too many notes. It's really designed for like crazy, like Mendelssohn elf playing on the piano. And then a last movement, great drama that drive us to the end. So we hope you enjoy the Chaminade Trio in G minor, Opus 11. Thank you.